Sell my info, hacked and don't know. Show me what I need to buy. Sex consumption, no corruption, just as advertised. You've been labeled and I've enabled, better apologize. Propaganda, racist slander, time to organize. Shot bang, who's next? Brain dead, useless, show it on the TV screen. Tell me who to vote for, gotta start a new war. Wouldn't wanna live in peace. Divide and conquer, weak not stronger. Everybody know your place. Do it now, won't hurt, dig into your own dirt. Virtue found its grave, they don't know me, and they don't own me. Oh God, help us all. Look what we've become. Oh God, help us all and fix what we have done. Inside violence, info silence, mainstream message, won't you guide us? You know what is best for our own good. Anti this and anti that, cancel this and cancel that. Take it to the streets and the neighborhoods. Worship actors, food and drugs. Brand yourself, give them your blood. Don't believe your eyes, don't look around. Fake news, rumors, okay boomer. Ignorance will stain our future. Will you make it through or burn it down? Oh God, help us all. Oh God, help us all. Oh God, help us all. Oh God, help us all.
Show is sponsored by Farmer Joe's Fresh Market, located at 1401 Southwest Pine Island Road in beautiful Cape Coral, Florida. Farmer Joe's now has delicious fried chicken, perfectly seasoned, crispy, juicy, southern fried bird in paradise. Don't forget, Farmer Joe's has all your Labor Day treats and eats. Everything you need and more. Lee County's greatest grocery store. Come on out to Farmer Joe's Fresh Market. Attorney, businessman, political analyst, multimedia commentator, Mr. Ford O'Connell is with us to explain why the world's gone insane. I am Smokin Joe, and welcome to Cracker Culture. We've got several issues to discuss today, Ford. First, I want to talk about the historical arrest of the greatest president of our time. I got a small clip, Ford, and let's discuss it afterwards.
Matt. Well, Jen, his time in office was unprecedented in so many ways. Now former President Donald Trump makes history once again, becoming the first president in U.S. history to have a mugshot. Trump posted the photo to social media last night, and his campaign is already fundraising off that image. Trump was booked yesterday at the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta. The GOP frontrunner for the 2024 presidential election has now been indicted in 4 separate cases, including these 13 charges Trump is facing for his alleged efforts to reverse Georgia's 2020 election results. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis spent close to 2 years building a case against Trump and the 18 other defendants. Willis intends to take this trial to happen on October 23rd.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
This case is likely going to drag on for many months, if not into next year and further, because it is such a complex case to litigate and also for the defendants to get up to speed on the discovery.
Trump was booked and released under a $200,000 bond, telling reporters afterwards, as you heard, that he did nothing wrong. Trump is back home at his New Jersey golf course this morning with prosecutors.
All right, Ford, so the first time ever we've had a president being arrested and had his mugshot. I know how I feel about it. I think that it's the most weaponized I've ever seen any government as far as I've been alive. Ford, what do you think? Is this just a dog and pony show? What's going on?
Well, let's start with the mugshot. The mugshot was not necessary. It wasn't required. It's over the top. And Dems will likely pay for this politically in 2024. But this is election interference. Understand why he's been indicted 4 times. It's only because he's running for president. They're trying to manufacture a conviction ahead of the 2024 election so that Joe Biden will win, a second term. And you have to recognize that if you allow Democrats to get away with this right now, what's to stop them in the future? This is bigger than Trump. This is the fight for our constitutional republic.
Well, Ford, you brought that up about his mugshot. This is all something to placate for the Democrats, and to even give you one further, the worst Democrat in our area by far is Cindy Beignet. So I noticed that Cindy Beignet is selling on her site, she promoting it today, pictures of Donald Trump's mugshot. This is what the Democrats want. They want something to flaunt. They don't have nothing that's but circumstantial evidence, and they want to flaunt. Look what we can do.
Well, that's exactly right. They want a trophy and they want to skew public perception because, look, if they weren't burying Trump in indictments, there's no way Joe Biden is going to win re-election. I mean, this is what Trump talks about when he means election interference. This gives the Democrats something to be fired up about because they certainly can't get fired up about the octogenarian in the Oval Office. So this is a trophy for them. And I'm telling you, Republicans play this right, particularly this mugshot. Democrats need to pay for this. And I'm telling you, because it's always about making sure independents stay home or a portion of the Republican Party. They know exactly what they're doing with these indictments.
Well, I just find it incredible. Like I said, these Democrats are so hungry to point the finger and say, look, that you got people like Cindy Beignet of all people. Look, she can't even win a campaign, and she's knocking a man who can. I mean, look, this is who
the Democrats are. You give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. This is something Donald Trump always used to say to me in the White House. You can't ever give the Democrats an inch because that's all they're looking for is to lie in little trophies that they can banter about. And I mean, look, forget Cindy. I can just tell you that a lot of Democrats today are doing that. And I'm sure before he even was processed in Fulton County, you had Fonnie Willis doing the same thing on her own fundraising page.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the debate. Now, I don't know. I've got a little clip here to put out, but the debate to me was probably the worst I ever seen. But let me play this.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies.
Hold on. I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring
You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, "Anthony, you are fired."
You know what? We're going to bring in.
I just want to finish responding to Mike. I just want to respond to Mike for 1 second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality and the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike, actually. We're just going to have some fun tonight.
No,
Boeing came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week, Nikki.
You want to go and defund Israel? You want to
Okay, let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to address each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician. There you have it.
Your watch,
so the reality
make America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The foreign policy experience that you all have shows.
Well, Ford, I don't know. They always on Vivek, attacking Vivek. I do agree that Vivek's awful green yet to be out here running political candidate, but there's all after him. They're all afraid of him.
Well, there's no question about it. I think he's probably going to get a slight bump in the polls because two things I saw about Vivek, and that is he drove the conversation all night and he knows how to make an impact. And like Vivek or not like Vivek, I will tell you, he was one of the very few up there that was consistently America First policies throughout the night. And I mean, our own governor even had to look over him for a minute when he was raising his hand when it came to Ukraine. So,
well, you brought up Ron. I got to ask a question because I talked to a few other, and it's concerning to me. Did you notice, and maybe it's just me, he twitched a lot. I mean, his head bobbled a lot, almost like early onset Parkinson's. I'm not wishing that on nobody. I don't know. But it was concerning. I focus in trying to watch all their little signs of what they're saying, watch their face. But all I could notice is every time he talked, his head was just like a bobble doll.
Well, let me say this about Ron. I think he did a good job on policy. I think he probably top to bottom was the best on policy in Milwaukee, but you're absolutely right. His delivery, he needs to work on that. I think he's green. And I think that he can take this as a good learning lesson because I'm going to tell you, Ron DeSantis is not done when his term as governor ends in Florida. He's got a future, but he's also got a lot of things to work on. And I think the big question, Joe, is with all the sparks that flew, with all the back and forth, the question is, did any of this change the dynamics of the race, the Republican race for the nomination? And the answer is no. Trump went in the front runner. Trump's going to come out the front runner. And barring a seismic moment, Trump is going to be the Republican nominee.
Well, and watching that stage, on that debate stage, people said, oh, Trump should have went. No, Trump shouldn't have went because, to be honest with you, it was a joke. They were so uncoordinated, talking over everybody, and the moderators let it go way too many times. They let them get carried away too many times. I think that I would enjoyed a debate, but some people didn't deserve to be on there, and Trump made that point. Chris Christie shouldn't have been up there.
Look, I agree with you. Trump was right to skip this debate, okay? Because remember, anything Trump says in this debate, the Democrats are going to try to manufacture against him. The question is, will Trump show up to the second debate that's at the end of September in California? And I don't think he will. Because, again, the dynamics of the race have not changed. And the other thing that concerns me is this is a very serious issue, Joe. What scares me is if it were not for the America First suite of policies, when I look at the Mike Pences, the Chris Christies, the Asa Hutchinsons, Nikki Haley, et cetera, what would be the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats? I'm not sure there would be a difference. The Republicans would just be Democrat light. And thank God for the America First suite of policies. And I'll tell you something. I think Nikki Haley did one thing right, and she was correct about the need to appeal to female voters, particularly unmarried female voters in the Republican Party. But her answer on Ukraine was atrocious.
Yeah. I wasn't real happy with hardly any of them's answer on Ukraine, to be honest with you. Vivek had the right answer as right as it could be.
Yeah.
The one thing that he said, I think that might cause him a little problem. He tried to clean it up later on, but he said we need to start a revolution. Now, that's the same thing they started yelling about the J6ers. They was trying to start a revolution. I mean, you got to be careful nowadays how you use certain words.
Well, there's no question about it. And I think that Vivek's got a great delivery. I think he's got a lot more to learn on the policy side than a lot of other people up there. He's got a bright future. He's a wealthy guy. This turn around the track is about raising his profile nationally. There's one guy we did not talk about, a very, very successful guy who got very little speaking time because Mike Pence and Vivek spoke the most.
I know who you're going to say, Scott, Tim Scott.
No, I'm actually going to go ahead.
Well, Tim Scott was the only one that didn't get in the slinging forth. He said, I ain't up here for that. He didn't get hardly zero speaking time. but he did what he did say. He come across very America first and he should have had more time.
He definitely should have had more time, but unfortunately, I think that this is going to hurt him in the polls. He's too polite and too nice. Remember, we got to watch it. You don't want to go too Vivek, but at the same time, if you go Tim Scott, the entire horse race is going to pass you by.
Right.
There was another gentleman in there, Doug Burgum, who's the governor of North Dakota. When that man's answer on education was outstanding. Frankly, he should be running the Department of Education as we try to chip away at it and minimize its federal power. This is a man who's worth a couple billion. He is actually the richest man in the race, believe it or not. And he went to Stanford, and he's from North Dakota, and he understands. It was when he said small town values, he had me at hello.
Well, that's what I say. He is from a small town, and I think that that's what hurts him, because people don't think that they look at small towns like the town out in LaBelle where I stay. It's a small town. Our government, they don't see nobody rising up from LaBelle to run for president. Sadly, some of these farmers and ranchers need to be running the country, but that's what they see. I think that guy would be a great asset to our company somewhere. I just think that he needs a little more political prowess.
Well, there's no question about it. What I'm saying is, when Trump wins the presidency, Joe, let's put it this way, he's somebody who should definitely be a secretary. And because I think I see that he's a smart businessman, and he also understands rural America and Main Street. And I told you, billion-dollar companies this guy has run. So, you know what? Based on his resume and what I saw in that food fight, again, when Trump wins, the first or second call should be to Burgum. And ironically, I think Trump talked about Burgum the other day on social media.
Well, I think that he's unheard of, and people should get to know. Most of the times in debates like this, those gentlemen up there on that stage and a lady, they're at best hoping for a VP spot. Nobody I've seen on there outside of Vivek and Scott and Burgum was even attempting to say they would be okay with that.
Yeah, look, I agree. Those are probably the only ones that'll be in a cabinet. And your point, I don't think any of them at this juncture will be the VP. But I think it's important when we talk about vice president, what the role of a vice president in the Trump administration really means. And that is you've got to be the super press secretary. In a lot of ways, under Bush, you had Dick Cheney working behind on policy. Now, because the media is against you and you're fighting with one arm behind your back, you've got to be really good on your feet with the policy and the talking points. Because if anything is proven what a weak vice president could do in the press, just look at Kamala Harris.
I totally agree. I would like to see more people structured on what needs to be talked about rather than what they think we need to hear. And that debate was pretty much what we wanted to hear.
I agree. And the only point with Burgum on the education, because he was telling us what we want to hear, but he was also giving you the plan. And that was the key part. And the idea that, here's how you get rid of the deep state in Washington, D.C. is, yes, you use Schedule Fs, and you can't fire them individually, but you are allowed to do mass layoffs. And that's essentially the point. The only way you're going to clean up the deep state and the administrative state is by going after it department by department.
Well, it was interesting. Like I said, I really wouldn't encourage nobody to go back and watch it. You ain't going to take much from it. However, President Trump done a pre-recorded show with Tucker to air at the same time. I'm going to play a little clip I've got of that, and then we'll talk about it.
But they just don't have a lot of credibility, Tucker. You know that. Perhaps get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than probably the debate or competition.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean?
Well, I don't want to really use names, but it wouldn't matter too much. A guy like, I call him Ada Hutchinson. It's Asa, but I call him Ada.
Why do you call him Ada?
I could tell you, but I don't want to get myself in a little trouble. but he's weak and pathetic. And now I know Washington. Before I didn't know Washington. But guys like Bill Barr were terrible. I mean, they were, I would say, Bushies. I say that with respect to the Bush family, but they were Bushies, and just it doesn't work out for us.
It was clear. This is kind of far afield, but it was just interesting. I read Barr's account of his time. He wrote a book about it,
right?
His autobiography, and in it he lies about Jeffrey Epstein's death. Clearly lies. Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely?
I don't know. I will say that, he was a fixture in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
I don't know what Barr said about it either. I have no idea what he said. What did he say? He killed himself, probably?
He said he killed himself and that they were going to do this investigation. They never did the investigation. It's never been public.
Well,
and they hid it. And why are they doing that? And clearly Barr knew. But why would Bill Barr be covering up the death of Jeffrey Epstein?
Bill Barr didn't do an investigation on the election fraud either, okay? He said he did, and he pretended he did, but he didn't. But there are those people, there are many people, I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he was killed. He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all.
The reason is, I think they like me, and I know they love my policies. I hope they like me too. A lot of people say they don't like me, but they like my policies. I think they like me. But I have never seen spirit like it is right now. And the reason is because crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to the gate, but you never know. But he's a corrupt person, so corrupt that I took the name off Hillary. I don't do two people at one time. I took the crooked Hillary and I retired the name. That was a good day for her. I bet she was very happy. And I used it for Joe because it's crooked Joe. But Joe.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace, he was the moderator.
Not a friend.
I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be his father, but he didn't have the talent of his father was great. His father.
He's a little fussy man.
His father.
Look, I love that part, man. When Tucker called him a bitchy little man, a fussy little man. But that was, look, there was a lot in there. I think that they done a remarkable job with the amount of views they got versus what the other group got on the debate stage. But Trump, they talked about a lot of things that probably wouldn't have been brought up in the debate, like the part about Epstein and other things. Did you watch the Tucker show? Did you think that it was appropriate?
Yeah, look, I watched it. I think it has more than 200 million views. I mean, I think that speaks to the power, one, of Trump, but also, two, of Tucker being the most populist voice, if you will, in America right now. And they covered a lot of things, and you learn stuff that you otherwise wouldn't learn from a candidate in a debate. I think even Elon Musk said it's amazing how many other things you can learn when you have a true sit-down like that. And I think they should have a sit-down with someone they all agree on, sort of asking, similar type questions, because I think it's very illuminating for a lot of American people. The two things, though, that I took away is Trump now recognizes why it's so important is because he knows Washington. The rest of these people do not know Washington. And from our perspective, this is now a good thing, knowing Washington. The other thing is he's absolutely right. We used to think Hillary was crooked. She is crooked. It's just amazing how much more crooked Joe Biden is.
And they're getting away with it. Well, talking about the Bidens, we need to go ahead and talk about the special counsel they put in this Weiss. Now, I'm going to play another clip, like I said, and, there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm shocked at what I found out after listening to this. Let's play this and see.
Has to be removed from this case. Do you agree?
So, for David Weiss to continue on in this as a special counsel in this investigation just raises so many questions for the American people. His credibility is is just non-existent at this point. He played his cards in this investigation. He decided what was going to be charged. He was at one point, based on the information releases from this weekend, was at one point not even going to charge him. And he was the part of the investigation that allowed the investigative steps not to occur.
I mean, that was stunning, that revelation over the weekend, that he was going to do absolutely nothing in this case, not tax charge, not even the low-level tax charges or the gun charge, and that what changed the course of this was when you came forward as a whistleblower. What did you think when you learned that?
So the release this weekend was really shocking. There's, I've refrained from talking motive here, and but as more information is released, it seems to be painting the picture of what was happening behind the scenes. And this was information the Department of Justice never expected would be released, similar to Special Agent Ziegler and I coming forward. And they never anticipated that. And they're being held accountable now, and I hope that Congress continues to pursue that and push it forward to ensure that the American people will be confident that our Department of Justice is equal.
Yeah. This is from the Washington Examiner today. It says at least 7 prosecutors who worked in the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office over the last several years of the Hunter Biden investigation appear to be Democratic donors. One of them appears to have a previously unreported personal relationship with the Biden family, at one point referring to Hunter Biden as a good friend. It was also revealed that David Weiss had at one time worked with Beau Biden. It's kind of shocking that he hasn't said that he wants to step aside from this whole thing, given all of these ties, isn't it? Are you surprised that at this point in this process, he wanted to be the special counsel on this case? And what do you think is going to happen now?
Well, what we really need is a special counsel to investigate this investigation, and that includes the actions of U.S. Attorney Weiss, Attorney General Garland, the statements made to Congress, the letters sent to Congress over and over again. As information comes out, it's proven that what they told the American people, what they told the Congress, was not accurate. And at the end of the day, I came forward for the American people, and I put myself at risk for the American people. And at the end of the day, they need to be confident that this investigation is actually looked at independently and fairly.
Well, Ford, he said we need a special counsel to investigate the special counsel. Look, man, there is so much corruption within the Biden family, and it seems like within the Delaware Attorney General's office.
Well, it was the New York Post, I think, that actually reported the fact that the only reason why we have a special counsel is because of the IRS whistleblowers actually blowing the whistle on what was going on in the original investigation. So to sum it up, we had a fake probe under David Weiss, and now he's in charge of a second fake probe. And everyone needs to understand, the Democrats, well, it has nothing to do with Joe Biden. That's not true. The Hunter Biden saga is a Joe Biden scandal, and it's allegations of foreign bribery and public corruption. And the fact is, they cover this up while they've just charged somebody who's never been arrested 91 times for 700 years for challenging an election through lawful means that the Democrats themselves have challenged. And we're wondering why the Republicans are the bad guys?
Well, him coming out that just over the past weekend, they almost didn't charge anything at all. That, to me, is unbelievable.
And let me put my legal hat on for a second. Here's the other problem. If you continue not to charge and you say you have a special counsel, then the statute of limitations is going to run on the things that you actually could charge them when you get a fair lawyer or a fair prosecutor in there. That is what is so criminal about this. This is criminal on so many levels. And then it goes back. What do we talk about? Richmond, north of Richmond, 2 systems of justice. And if you're Hunter Biden, man, you can do all this stuff and live in the White House. If you're Donald Trump, you're going to get mugshotted. That's kind of where we are.
Oh, that's a fact. Look, I sat back and I listened to it, and it's so funny to me because it makes me mad to hear it. Then I'm like, am I the only one? Because the rest of you people ain't Raising Cain. I think that all of America ought to be up raising Cain to this special privileged treatment done to a white man. Is definitely he's whiter than I'll ever be. You know, look, come on, America. Let's wake up and ask the real questions.
And the crazy part is Garrett Shapley, one of the two major IRS whistleblowers. I'm not sure that he's a Republican. I'm not sure. I've seen him in the green room and on TV and stuff. I mean, that's how bad it was for this guy to come forward, and he doesn't seem to have any sort of political agenda. He's not some Republican version of Michael Anati. Remember the lawyer who was lying and the media loved it, and he was a bigger criminal than the criminals he was arguing about. This guy happens to just be a career servant going, this is crazy. And I got to tell somebody, or next what, I'm going to have the book thrown at me.
Well, I need to get on back into Southwest Florida because I know everybody waits to hear what we got to say about our cabal around here. The first thing I want to do is I want to congratulate Collier County. Collier County just became a sanctuary city for the Bill of Rights. Now, to me, this is a great item for them to have voted on and got it out there for the public. And it gives the sheriff more authority to not let the tyranny come in and make us mask up and lock down. So I think it's a good thing. For Al Oaks spoke. I'm going to do a clip of Al Oaks speaking, and then we'll move on.
I think that you really have to have your head in the sand to not realize what's going on in our country right now with many of the three-letter agencies within our government. With almost everything that I see coming from our federal government right now is unconstitutional. We're watching what's happening at the border. And if you don't think that's unconstitutional, then I don't think you understand the Constitution. We see what's going on. If you've been watching any of the congressional hearings, brave men like this gentleman that just came up here as a whistleblower, there's hundreds of them. It's not a couple, there's hundreds of them. People that are standing up against what we now see as a tyrannical government. And it's not a maybe, it's here. And we do live in a special place. Naples, Florida, I call it the tip of the spear of really conservative America, like the place that many of the people here, most of our people that live in this country, they've moved here because of that. I don't know, when I took the stand at Steve the table, that we weren't going to mask and we weren't going to play with these unconstitutional acts, and we're going to resist against it. I remember the first day the Naples Daily News said, oh, the store Steve the table, no one's going to move to Naples. That's what they said. They said, it's in the paper, you can look it up. They said we're super spreaders, no one's going to move to Naples. Well, that's not really what happened, right? Many people have moved from all of these tyrannical cities to this great place of Collier County, to the great state of Florida, and they want protection. And you folks are representatives of the people, and the vast majority of the people in this county, I believe, are thinking that they want their constitutional rights to be protected. And this is just one further step. We're asking to give the sheriff a little bit of help, even more power. The sheriff wields a tremendous amount of power. And we're asking you folks to support it. And I understand that, Bert, that you might not want to vote yes on this, but we as the electorate also have the choice not to vote for you when it comes back up again. So we want you to listen to us. These are many people may not realize it. There's 400,000 people that have died in Ukraine. 400,000 people died. Our media is not saying that, but that's putting our country at a big risk right now of the brink of World War III. And I'm not one of these guys that thinks the world's coming to an end, but this is serious right now. And in the next year, in these next 6 months, this next year, we're likely to face times and scenarios that we've never even dreamed of before. And that's why we need to preserve our Constitution, and this Bill of Rights sanctuary ordinance is exactly what we need here in Collier County.
Well, the community come out strong in support of this. Of course, the LGBTQ community was there trying to push against it, and it passed. All the commissioners voted to pass to make it a sanctuary city, with the exception of Mr. Saunders.
Look, Alfie's absolutely right about what is going on around Collier County, not only in Washington, D.C., but also in the state of Florida. Let me put it in a very simple way. On the West Coast, meaning California, on the West Coast, they're already masking up. You've got colleges that are masking up. I talked about this yesterday with Trey Radel on 92.5 FM. What is to stop it from happening again? First of all, the idea that you're going to do the same stupid stuff again that didn't work the first time, this is why you need this. And it should be, if there's some issues with it, it needs to be reviewed, but this is absolutely what Collier County needs. I tip my hat to Alfie for that. I'll tell you something else. Now that the sheriff has it, maybe I should challenge Rambos for sheriff, since many of my family lives in Collier County. Now, I'm kidding about Rambos, but I mean, this is something that I think can be a model for the rest of the nation if we do it right.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to mess with Rambos or Under Sheriff Bloom and get away with it too much.
I know. I'm just ribbing them a little bit.
No, well, I want to talk about some things going on in Lee County as well. Now, last week we brought up the fact that State Representative Jill Lombardo, along with Adam Botana and State Representative Tiffany Esposito and Senator Jonathan Martin, put out a letter requesting for an audit for the last 3 years. And I have got down to the point where this is all about COVID monies, if you want to know what it's really about. But I'm going to call BS on this whole deal, Ford. I don't think Mike Gilombardo is trying to get to the bottom of this, nor Jonathan Martin, nor Adam Botana, or Tiffany Esposito. I think this is a sham, and I'm going to tell you why. If they really, truly wanted an audit, there's a way to get it. All you have to do is put out a request to the Auditor General, and they have to do it, but they have to request it. They're going to do this audit where Kevin Carnes, who we all know is amongst the friendly, very friendly with the cabal members. So you got Kevin Carnes, they're going to pass on it. And I was talking about this earlier. I talked to a school board member about their budgets and these budgets and audits, but they got special math. Now, I don't know what special math is, but the way that this school board member broke it down to me is they will take all the items and they figure a way to make it add up. You can't come to that conclusion, but their special math comes. Look, I'm calling that's BS too. You look, if you can't give me a line item, tell me what that was spent on accurately, then you're not really auditing.
Well, look, I think you raised a lot of great questions. None of this adds up, just like special math. Now, my question to you, Joe, is why do you think they made a stink and sent this letter out in the first place, given that we now don't seem to see the same sort of media coverage we saw, say, a week ago on this, and now media is kind of silent, and it doesn't seem that they're really at odds. Why the letter then?
Well, I've asked several questions about this, and I've thought about it. So I have been told that Mike Gilombardo, who authored this letter, he sponsored it. He is also represented by Terry Miller. So I don't believe, and so I was told today by someone else that Terry Miller is going to continue to be, they believe, his campaign manager. Terry Miller will never protect Mike if he's really trying to get the answers. So we got an election coming up. those are the ones that you got to watch on this signature thing. Who's up for election, who's not.
So you're saying, because most of them pretty much had signed the letter asking for the audit. That's Tiffany Esposito, Mike Gianlombardo, Jonathan Martin, and Adam Botana. 3 of the 4 of those are clients of Terry Miller. One is very friendly with Terry Miller,
Friendly.
Yeah, very friendly, even though he might have a little, boat issue, but he's very friendly with him. And then the people on the other side, Spencer Roach and Jenna Parsons, are obviously Terry Miller. So basically, they're now dissuaded from bringing the audit because they want to stay in power.
And here's the thing. They act like Spencer Roach come out vehemently against this audit. Okay? And so the rumors of there being a tear in the Millerite camp, when you see Spencer Roach hold a debate party and there's Jonathan Martin there at Spencer Roach's party, there can't be that much controversy.
Again, I'm relying on you, but I'm just trying to ask the questions, and I think that that's a great point. If there's this huge hullabaloo about an audit, or at least now, it appears that there seems to be no difference whatsoever. So what you're essentially telling me is time goes on, this little letter will be swept under the rug, and we're just going to keep moving on as Lee County.
Well, in the letter, they gave Kevin Carnes a year to do this audit of the last 3 years. Well, quite frankly, and I'm going to say this, and this is what I'm going to say on the matter, Mike Gianlombardo, Adam Botana, Jonathan Martin, or Tiffany Esposito, if he's not full of crap, then you request this audit from the Florida Auditor General immediately, and let's get to the bottom of it. Otherwise, just shut up.
So what you're saying is they can actually do this if they want to, except for the schools, as we discussed last week. They can do this overall. They can do it on their own. They don't need to write a letter or anything else. And essentially, now nothing's going to happen.
There's just too many coincidences that on the outside to make it look like a typical TM strategic plan.
Well, and I'll tell you what my number 2 rule in politics is. There's no such thing as that many coincidences in politics. I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not alleging anything. But based on what you're saying and what we see, and we saw this letter, and I think Wink News and some others covered it, and now we hear crickets, it seems to me that the people that filed the letter have been dissuaded from doing it. And even if they really wanted to do it, irrespective of the letter, they could do it if they truly wanted to.
Well, I tell you what, they can say whatever, but until one of them files it, and here's the thing, I got news for them all. I can file that. I don't have to wait on them. I can file and ask the Florida Auditor General for that audit and get it. So let me give you all on notice. Spencer, Jonathan, Waldo, and Mike, all of you, if this letter hasn't been filed, if the Florida Auditor General has not had a request for this audit by the end of next week, I promise you that I will file that request. We're going to find out where that money's at.
Well, that means our next podcast could get pretty spicy, huh?
Well, today's going to get spicy. We ain't even got started yet. Ford, I've been screaming about the problems in Lee County, the nepotism, the cronyism. I went to the school board, believe it or not, this week, and I want to play. They gave me 2 minutes to speak. I have a hard time getting my speech in within the 3 minutes they allot, but I'm going to show you what I got out. Smokin Joe. The district wants $2.6 billion over the next decade to build 16 schools. Another speculative cost of $423 million for remodeling and additions to 8 other schools. $22.5 million to acquire land. You sure don't mind asking for money, but when it comes to your duties to protect public funds, you have been negligent and ignored your fiduciary duties. This board has refused to have a forensic audit conducted and have discouraged those who asked and blackballed whistleblowers. Ignore ignoring reports submitted to the district like the deposition of Al Oaks, which reiterated the corruption and thievery within this district. This, along with other complaints, fraudulent bills created were ignored. No one has ever been held accountable. So you sit back and let the statute of limitations wear out to acquit. Common amongst you woke politicians. Real conservatives are real tired of you phonies. Armour wants the position created for him by him to be the anointed one to communicate with the legislators, while he retains the position of liaison to the Construction Advisory Committee and also the Audit Committee, Value Adjustment Committee as well. This new position is a perfect place for him to lobby for the election of his son-in-law for the Board of County Commissioners. You spent $230 million on hurricane cleanup and repair, yet schools are still in poor condition. Let's start with the forensic audit of the hundreds of millions of dollars wasted in the name of hurricane damage. The only reason anyone would resist an audit this hard is if they are guilty or covering up for someone else. So tell us again, who doesn't want this audit? We need accountability for all of you. First time I can recall a school board endorsement for a candidate of other political positions. So much for the board being nonpartisan. All the Millerites proudly openly support for Armour's son-in-law. The Franklin Park demo was awarded to Armour's son-in-law's company. The fact that the board has publicly endorsed a vendor and the vendor is led to the chair is a conflict of interest. And the board attorney will not recognize this and stop.
Board, listen to everyone. I've got a couple of comments I want to make, and then I'll turn it over to the superintendent. Responses. The very first speaker, Mr. Phillips, said something that was false but personal to me. He said my son-in-law had a contract with the school district. That is totally false. He's never had a contract. He works for he has done work for several construction companies, and one of them had the contract for Franklin Park, and they asked him to do the demolition. But he was never approved, and no one on the board had any say in that. That was totally up between the contractor.
So what happened here is he went on after that to talk on audits and how they get audited. He is one of them that does not want a forensic audit. He later emailed me he blocked me on social media, but he did comment and say basically what he just said. But then he turned around and said, well, my son is a vendor and I just have to step out if he wants to bid on something. It don't work that way, Ford. He's a contractor. I don't care if he's a subcontractor. He's a contractor that is making money off of the district, off of the hurricane relief money.
People need to know about this. They need to know about the cronyism that goes on in Lee County. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but it is important to say that if you can point this out right there, and he's sort of backtracking on it, how many other people are in the same position? And by the way, I'm surprised it took him this long to block you on social media.
Well, he cannot backtrack on it because I had the proof. I've got where his son-in-law done walkthroughs with the district on the other. He's a vendor. There's no other ways around it. And what you heard me say was I'd never before seen a school board that is supposed to be nonpartisan come out and endorse a candidate for anything, let alone a county commissioner. And they did just that. Sam Fisher, Jada Langford Pinkett, and Armour as school board members. I've got the flyer where they endorsed David Mullica, Armour's son-in-law.
Who also is being represented by Terry Miller. Is that
is also represented by
and those are the three school board members that are also with Terry Miller. Is that not correct?
That's correct. Those are the Millerites. And it's hard not to question. Look, I've got a lot of questions. Look, a lot of people ask me that all of a sudden they're getting mailers and texts and emails from Jenna Persons Mullica. And it's talk about how she's here for the community. Everybody that's got a child in the Lee County School District, apparently she's got their email addresses and things to contact them. Now, I know there's a way to do it. There's a right way and a wrong way. So just so Jenna is well aware, I have already got a Freedom of Information Act to find out how she received those in order, because I'm going to find out. I believe the person's family is as corrupt as the Biden family. I mean, Armour looks like a Biden doppelganger. Come on, man. You've got to get out here and really look at what these criminals are doing and how much money and power do we give to one family.
Well, look, it seems that public office in Lee County is the family business. Now, you got to go out there and show that not only are they serving in office, but they're profiting from it. And it seems to be that getting at the documents could be difficult. But again, I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but you're connecting a lot of dots that, again, may be coincidences, but a lot many coincidences doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, and I, you know, folks, y'all need to look into this yourselves. I've got I always have the receipts. If I say it, you better believe I'm going to be able to show you the proof. And I want to go ahead and continue to talk about David Mullica. Now, David Mullica is running for county commissioner. Now, last night I attended a function, a meet and greet with the person that's running against him, and his name is Brian Farrar. I have to say what I felt about this man. I feel this man is genuine. I feel like he's a good man. I feel like that he would be good. He's already proved what he's done in this community. You know, his children, they own the reef that was washed away by the hurricane, so I'm familiar more with his children than him. But I will say this about Mr. Farrar. He's going to have to toughen up. He's too nice. And the powerhouses like the persons and those, they'll chew his lunch up. And, you know, Adam Botana is supporting Brian Farrar. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. Adam Botana is so hard to predict right now because he's either one way or the other. He oscillates back and forth with the Millerites. Who knows where his head really is? But I like Brian Farrar, but he's going to have to get tougher for him.
I hope he understands what Miller games are ahead of him. Basically, they're going to go out and say nice things, and then with about 3 weeks to go in the election, they're going to drop a bomb on him, and it's probably going to be a total lie or a manipulated audio or a million other things, and he needs to be prepared for that. And frankly, if he isn't going negative now, he better start, because that's the only way Terry Miller plays. He's going to burn you to the ground with 21 days to go, so you better start burning his candidate to the ground right now.
Well, I'm going to say this. I told Mr. Farrar last night, I have a concern. I think we need to get these audits. And my biggest concern in Fort Myers Beach, and I told Brian Farrar this, I would like for somebody back in December, Fox 4, there was a reporter broke a story. Well, this reporter's gone from that area now, but the story was about the CARES package. Now, in the CARES package and what this reporter reported, there was close to $7 million in the CARES package that was going to help people that was displaced during the hurricane. And, you know, down on Fort Myers Beach is where the money was supposed to go to, and it was supposed to help people who that lost their homes. So I had this reporter say, look, he said, that was almost $7 million. Do you know how much they spent on that? And I said, no. He said, under $200,000. Well, I want somebody to tell me where the rest of that money went. I know, but I want somebody else to point it out for.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, look, I liken this. Let me step back for a second, just for people watching. I liken this a lot to Ukraine. What's the biggest problem in Ukraine, if nothing else? You're sending a blank check over there. You want to know where the money goes, if nothing else, regardless of how you feel about the war. And our government's like, don't ask any questions. Well, that's what's happening in Lee County. Don't ask any questions. You should. It's your tax dollars. It's other people's federal tax dollars as well. You need to know, are we being run by honest people? And is the money going where they said it would go? It's two very simple questions. And why nobody wants to know the answer to this is beyond me. You should want to know the answer to this every 2 to 3 years from your government anyway.
No, I agree. And another thing, I was there, and the new mayor of Fort Myers Beach was sitting there. I elected not to speak to him because I really, when you're a elected official, your duty is to your constituents.
Correct.
And I had a report that there was a meeting, there was like a town hall or an update to be held. They charged everybody $25 a head to go to this meeting. The keynote speaker was the new mayor of Fort Myers Beach. And it was supposed to discuss on everything, the update on the hurricane relief and all this. Well, guess who didn't show up? And the people that organized the function had no clue. The mayor, the main speaker, did not show up, didn't give a reason to nobody. And they asked the people, so, well, who was here from Fort Myers Beach? All these people that paid $25 raised their hand. Well, who was here to see what the mayor had to say? They raised their hand. Whatever become of that? Did they refund them? But from last I heard, the mayor has not addressed why he didn't show up. And that's the Fort Myers Beach mayor, not Mayor Anderson. That's not him. It's so, you know. But again, I want to know where this money is. You know, you give me some politicians that really look into where these so-called cabal politicians that's been here forever. What are they doing with our money? I'll be happy with an honest politician that will just point me in the right direction.
Especially with disasters. I mean, that's the big payday. And unfortunately, people need to understand that. I mean, look, we've had Irma, we've had Ian. We need to know where the money's going because this is when the big payday came. Remember when Joe Biden came down to Southwest Florida and you had Ron DeSantis and really, you know, Joe Biden walked through the motions, whatever. You know, the real question was how much federal aid was it going to be? I think 30 days, 60 days, or whatever the number was. And Ron did a good job getting us the highest number possible. But that means a lot of money was flowing into Lee County and Charlotte County too. But Lee County, and we need to make sure that that money went to the right places, particularly when disasters occur, because essentially then you got developers coming in trying to buy the ruins on the cheap and then build up these monstrosities. So we got to, you know, there's a lot of moving parts here that people need to understand.
Well, Ford, I hope that somebody hears what we say. I hope that one of these 4 politicians who's sponsored this letter for an audit will do what should be done, draft that letter, propose it to the Florida Auditor General. That will get inspected. He don't have to audit them unless asked. It's time to ask, and I can assure you by this time next week, if they haven't asked, I'll be doing the asking. And Ford, I hope to see you next week. Looks like we might have another hurricane maybe this weekend coming in. What do you think?
I hope not. I mean, after, as I said, and after Irma, Ian, what is this one? If it becomes a hurricane, I think it's going to be called Julie. The good thing is the last 3 were I's. This appears to be a J. Yeah. Let's hope the J is our lucky letter, my friend.
Well, Ford, I hope to see you again soon. I hope everything you got going. You can catch Ford at FordO'Connell.com. He's got a mean tweet following. You probably ought to watch that. He puts out a lot of good information on X. It's no longer tweeting, it's Xing. So check out Ford on X, I guess it is now. And we'll see you next week, folks. Ford, thanks again, brother.
You got it, my friend. Take care.
Yeah. Love, peace, and gator grease, y'all.